Now let's take a look at the System Explorer. So in order, before start, now let's take a look at the System now now let's take a look at the System Explorer. Before starting, we usually change the System Explorer to make it fit with our model. So the first thing is the aperture. So the aperture, right now we're going to use entrance pupil diameter, because one of the spec for our system is the entrance pupil diameter. In future we can change it float by stop size, but right now, because that's the spec for our system, we're going to use entrance pupil diameter. And entrance pupil diameter, based on the spec, is 50 millimeter. So we're going to put 50 here, and then I'm going to show you how we can make sure that this is based on millimeter. Apodization is uniform. We can use Gaussian beam, which means that the total number of rays at the center is higher than the tail of the Gaussian beam, so it's going to go down with Gaussian beam or cosine cube, but right now we're going to use uniform. Clear semi-diameter margin, we are not going to change it. Clear semi-diameter margin percentage, we are not going to change it. And the global reference surface is surface 1, so everything is based on stop of the optical system. And we don't need to change any other parameters. So we are done with aperture. Now let's go to the field. We click on the field, click on open field data editor. Okay, we have data field editor here. Let's put it here. Or we can put it close to it. Yeah. So right now I put the lens data editor here, field data editor here. Based on the spec, the semi-field diameter or semi-field of view is 5 degrees. So we usually just change the Y angle, because our optical system is totally symmetric. We don't need to have both field for X and Y, which is okay. We can have for both, but it's gonna be the same. So we have one field at 0, which is at the center. We can click on this arrow, this button here, and go to field wizard. Number of field 0 is okay. Current field is x0 angle, y0 angle. So field type is based on angle. We can have based on object height, paraxial image height, or real image height. But right now we're gonna make it based on angle. So if we go to field wizard, number of field 3 is okay. Start at 1, and maximum wide field we're gonna put 5. So when we click on OK, Zemax automatically make all the fields for us. We can have more field numbers, but 0, 5, 2.5. This is in Y angle. So those are all the fields that we have. So we don't need to change anything else. You can have, for example, 1.5, but the maximum field is 5 degrees. So we should be very careful. This 5 degrees means that plus and minus 5. This is for just positive Y angle, and based on the spec is semi field of view, so which means that half of the total field of view, which is 10 degrees, is 5. So the wavelength, the default is 550, but we want to have this 550 and the weight is 1. So we double click on wavelength. Let me put wavelength close to field data editor also. So here we want to optimize it based on the spec. We want to optimize it for visible light. So FDC visible has all the wavelengths that is for visible light, the 3 main wavelengths, which is RGB, red, green, blue. We select that as preset. So right now we have 486, 588, and 656. And the main wavelength or the center wavelength is 588. Actually, because based on the spec, we need to optimize it for 550. We can add one more wavelength, which is 550. And we can set this one as our primary wavelength for optimization. So we have different wavelengths also. So this is for the wavelengths. The next one is the environment. We don't need to change the environment. The temperature is constant, so we are not going to touch the environment. The next one is polarization. Because right now we are dealing with a very simple optical system, we don't need to include polarization, and we don't have any polarizing optical elements in our system, so we don't need to change it. Advanced is for it's a little bit more complicated, so we don't need to change anything in advanced tab. For this optical system, we are not going to change anything. Ray aiming, for now, we're going to keep it off. We don't need to change it. And the material catalog, because we're going to use NBK7, and NBK7 by default is from shot catalog. Again, we don't need to change anything. But if we want to use a different material from like O'Hara glass, we need to change the material catalog. So right now we are not going to change this one also. Title and node, we can have a title for our optical system. We can change it to single. The author, you can put your name. And you can have a note, like how you can have a note. And then the file is whenever you want to have coatings data, you want to change the coating, you can have your coating, your own coatings data, and then reload. Whenever you change it, we can reload it, that the new data is gonna load into Zemax. But right now we are not gonna change that parameter. So the unit, the lens unit, all the dimensions is based on millimeter, which is good for us because most of our dimensions, actually all of them, is based on millimeter. And the source unit is based on watt. We are not worried about the power, so we don't need to change anything. And we can go picowatt, kilowatt, megawatt. We are not gonna change anything. Analysis unit, again the same. For the watt per area, which is the intensity, is watt per centimeter squared. We don't need to change it, and because the system is not afocal, we are not going to change that one. And MTF is cycle per millimeter. And for cost estimator, we don't need to change anything in this tab also.